And now for the exciting conclusion of Neil Gaiman's Fortunately, the Milk. Also, we have depowered your time machine. I looked at the professor. His armored back flaps were drooping, and his tail was, well, not actually between his legs because stegosauruses aren't made that way, but if they were, it would have been. We have been tracking your movements through time and space, said a large, globby alien in front of a console with a screen on it. Now see what happens when I press this Grundleforder, said a particularly drippy alien. It was half sticking to the wall next to a large, black, shiny button. It's called a button, I said. Nonsense! We named it after our brood aunt, Nessie Grundleforder, said the globby aliens. The particularly drippy alien pressed the black button on the metal wall with something that might have been a finger and might just have been a long strand of snot. There was a crackle. There was a fizz. Standing around us in attitudes of anger and irritation were several pirates, some of the black-haired people from the jungle, a very unhappy-looking volcano god, a large bowl filled with piranhas, and some vampires. I'm not sure I understand what the piranhas are doing, said my sister. They were from a narrow escape earlier that I forgot to mention, said our father. Fortunately, the milk floated at a crucial moment and it all ended for the best. I thought it might, I said. Uh-oh, I said. Prepare to be keyhauled, you scurvy dogs, shouted the pirates. Let us now sacrifice them both to great Splod, shouted the men with the shiny black hair. They stole my eye, twice, rumbled mighty Splod. They wants those wheelins and wormets violently wound up, proclaimed a large, tall lady vampire with long fingernails. The piranhas said nothing, but they thrashed about in their bowl ominously. Doomed, moaned Professor Steg. We cannot escape. They have frozen us in time and depowered us. Even my mighty time machine can do no more than open a small window in time and space, smaller than either of us could get through. But can you do it? I asked. Open a little window in time to our last location? Of course, but what good would that do? Quickly, I said, do it. Professor Steg pushed the button on the box with the tip of his nose. There was a zum and a plip, and a window opened in time and space, large enough for an arm to get through. I reached into it. I'll explain later, I said. Fate of the world at stake. I grabbed the milk from me 15 minutes earlier through the tiny space-time portal. You must like milk a lot, said the globby aliens, but that craving for lactic liquids will not make us take pity on you or let you go and spare your badly designed planet. It should, I said. What am I holding in my left hand? The milk, they said. And what am I holding in my right hand? They paused. Then one alien, so green and small and so globby and crusted that he might have been an enormous snot bubble blown by an elephant with a terrible head cold, said, The same milk from 15 minutes earlier. Exactly, I said. Now, think about this one very carefully. What would happen if I touched these two things together? The globby aliens went a very pale green. The pirates, shiny black-haired men, and the piranhas looked at them, puzzled, seeking some kind of explanation, as did the vampires. If two things that are the same thing touch, proclaimed the volcano god, then the whole universe shall end. Thus saith the great and unutterable Splod. How does a volcano know so much about transtemporal metascience? Asked one of the pale green aliens. Being a geological formation, it gives you a lot of time to think, said Splod. Also, I subscribe to a number of learned journals. I coughed in what I hope was an ominous sort of way. Well, I asked. What he said, admitted the green globby aliens. The bit about the universe ending.
So, I told them, unless you wish to spend the rest of your lives in a universe that no longer exists, you had better return things the way they were, and then go away. The aliens looked at each other. They grinned at each other. One of them pressed the Pt.4. The vampires, pirates, piranhas, volcano god, and worshippers of the volcano god were gone. "What if," suggested one of the green globby aliens hopefully, "we only redecorated the southern hemisphere?" "Not a chance," I said. "Now release us, or the milk touches itself. And then go away. Leave this planet forever." The aliens looked at me. Then they looked at each other, and then they sighed, with a noise like 100 elephantine snot balloons, all deflating at once. "Right," they said. It was at that moment that a voice louder than anything I had ever heard, and I had heard a volcano erupt at a very close range, said, "Galactic Police, do not move!" My hand shook, but the milk did not touch the milk, and the universe did not end. There were red and blue flashing lights, and then, stepping off their space bikes, were about half a dozen uniformed dinosaurs, holding unmistakably large and extremely serious weapons. They pointed their weapons at the green globby aliens. "You are charged with breaking into people's planets and redecorating them," said a noble and imposing looking Tyrannosaurus Rex, "and then with running away and doing it again somewhere else, over and over. You have committed crimes against the inhabitants of 18 planets and crimes against good taste." "What we did to Rigel 4 was art," argued a globby alien. "Art? There are people on Rigel 4, said an Ankylosaurus, "who have to look up every night at a moon with 3 huge plaster ducks flying across it." Something very long, with a head on the end of it, came over to us. It was attached to a very large body, on the other side of the room. "Who are you?" it asked Professor Stegg, "and why is your gorilla holding a transtemporally dislocated milk container?" "I am not a gorilla," I said. "I am a human father." "The human is holding the milk in order to make these evil redecorating snot bubbles go away and stop menacing this planet and us," said Professor Stegg. The Diplodocus, in a police cap, opened its mouth and didn't say anything. The Tyrannosaurus, who had handcuffed all the green globby people together with something that looked a lot more like pink string in a can than it looked like handcuffs, which was a good thing because they probably wouldn't have had hands and they definitely didn't have wrists, stared at us and his eyes opened wide. "Great day in the morning," he exclaimed. "A biped, a stegosaurus, a floaty ball person carrier." And he stopped, as if unable to go on. A pteranodon flapped over to us, then landed at Professor Stegg's feet. It looked up at him and said hesitantly, could you be the inventor of Professor Stegg's pointy zooming out into outer space machine? Of Professor Stegg's really good moves around in time machine? Would you be the author of My Travels into the Extremely Far Future and What I Found There? Professor Stegg, wisest of all dinosaur kind? Madam, is it truly you? It is, said the professor. Madam, I thought, embarrassed. And this is my assistant. The pteranodon extended a wing tip for me to shake, and without thinking I moved the second milk from my right hand to my left, where the first milk was. Everybody gasped. Unfortunately, the milk that had been in my right hand, which was the same as the milk that had already in my left hand, the same milk 15 minutes apart, touched each other. I held my breath. There was a fizzing noise and a mewing, as if 100 kittens were being agitated in an enormous basket. Professor Stegg closed her eyes. I can't look, she said. 3 purple dwarves with flower pots on their heads appeared from nowhere and began doing a little dance. Did the universe end? Said the Tyrannosaurus, with his eyes tightly scrunched closed. Look, I said. We all watched the dwarves dance. They weren't human, and they weren't dinosaurs. They had purple skin and flower pots on their heads, and lots of flowers growing out of them. They did a complicated sort of dance, with a lot of leg kicking and shouts of oi and ole and pertung, and then, as strangely as they had come, they vanished. Ah, said Professor Stegg. It was always a possibility this might happen, and fortunately the universe has not ended. She pressed the button again with her tail. A small hole in space and time opened up. I was standing on the other side with a baffled expression on my face. Catch, I shouted, and threw the milk through the hole. As the portal closed, I saw me catch the milk using my stomach. The green globby aliens having been rounded up and taken away, all the space dinosaurs gathered around. I can't believe it, said the Diplodocus. Professor Stegg, just like in the comics, the dinosaur had taught us that in the far future small mammals will eat their breakfast cereal with milk on it. Inventor of the button, she's here in front of us with her gorilla. Not a gorilla, but a human father, said Professor Stegg. And all the other dinosaurs gasped and said things like, how wise she is, and what a brain, and how can you tell the difference between that creature and a gorilla? Is it the shoes? Professor Stegg said, this human father has been my companion on my strange journey into the future. Now, before I take my leave of him and come with you, O space dinosaurs, we should sing to him one of the great old dinosaur songs. They sang me a song in 6-part harmony called How Do You Feel This Morning When You Know What You Did Last Night? Then they sang me a song called Don't Go Down to the Tar Pits, Dear, because I'm getting stuck on you. The Space Police dinosaurs sang me a song about being space police and saving people all over the universe and driving very fast space bikes. And then they all sang a song called I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Hard, Hairy, Wet White Crunchers, which was an ancient dinosaur song that had apparently been written by Professor Stegg's Aunt Button. There is nothing in the whole of creation as beautiful as dinosaurs singing in harmony. Now, said Professor Stegg, I shall go off in my floaty ball person carrier with my newfound dinosaur space police friends, and I shall explore the universe, and then I shall return to my own time and write a book about it. You actually write several books, said the Diplodocus. Professor Stegg's Guide to Everything in the Whole of the Future was my favorite. It's very inspirational. I said goodbye to all the dinosaurs. I thanked Professor Stegg for saving my life. Not at all, she said. We were both fortunate that you had the milk with you. It is not every container of milk that saves the world, after all. That was me that saved the world, I said, not the milk. The space dinosaurs all had their pictures taken holding the milk and smiling at the camera. What are you going to do with the milk? They asked me. Are you going to put it in a museum? No, I am not, I told them. I'm going to give it to my children for their breakfast cereal, and possibly I will pour some in my tea. Professor Stegg nipped back up the rope ladder and climbed into the gondola of her balloon. The last I saw of her, of any of them, the whole inside of the saucer was fading into light so bright I had to close my eyes and look away. And then I was standing at the back door of our house, none the worse for wear. Fortunately, the dinosaurs had given me back the milk after they had their photos taken with it. So I came in, and here I am. That was what my dad said. I looked at my sister, and my sister looked at me. Then we both looked around the kitchen, at the calendar on the wall with the hot air balloons on it, at my dinosaur models, and my sister's ponies, at my sister's vampire books, at the picture of a volcano I had painted when I was little last year, which is still up on the wall by the fridge. We looked at those things, and we looked at my dad. You know, we don't believe any of this, said my sister. We don't, I told him. Not any of it. Especially not how you save the world from being remodeled, or the pirates. Not any of it, I said. My father shrugged. Suit yourself, he said. But it was all true, and I can prove it. How? Yes, how? Asked my little sister. Well, said my father, putting it down on the kitchen table. Here's the milk. And he went back to reading his paper. The end. Well, I hope you really enjoyed that story. I enjoyed reading it to you. And You get to watch it over and over again if you want to. Have a great day. Don't forget the milk for your breakfast cereal.